Let us take a look at our second question. Thabo repays a loan by means of two payments. The first payment of 13,000 is made after 4 years. The second payment amounting to 5,000 is made 3 years later. So if you could add this number of years, it is 4 years and 3 years, which will result to 7 years time. The interest rate during the first 4 years is 9% per annum, compounded semi-annually. Now semi-annually simply means half yearly, which is 2. For the remaining 3 years, the interest rate changes to 12% per annum, compounded monthly. You would recall that when it says monthly, it simply means 12 months in a year. How much did Thabo originally borrow? Let us write down our data. In the first 4 years, Thabo paid 13,000, and what was the interest rate in the first 4 years? The interest rate, it was 9%. 9% divided by 9% divided by what is it, divided by 100, it will give us 0.09. You would recall that for the first 4 years the interest rate is 9%. Remember that interest rate, you have to divide it by 100 before you can use it. Per annum, compounded semi-annually, so you are going to divide it by 2 again because it is compounded semi-annually, which will give us 0.09 divided by 2, which will give us 0.045. The number of years, it is how much? Number of years, it is 4 years. Because it is compounded semi-annually, you have to multiply that number of years by 2, which will give us 8. For the remaining 3 years, Thabo paid how much? Thabo paid 5,000. The interest rate, remember, it was 9% for the first 4 years, but for the remaining 3 years it changed to 12%. You have to divide this 12 by 100, which is 0.12. But since it is compounded monthly, that interest rate you also divide it by 12 months now, which will give us 0.01. The number of years, we said it's the remaining 3 years, but since it is compounded monthly, that number of years we multiplied by 12, which will result to 36 months. Now we are going to do our timeline. They said after 4 years, Thabo paid how much? Thabo paid paid 13,000. Then for the remaining 3 years, if you could add 3 years to this 4, it will result to 7 years. For the remaining 3 years, so from year to year is 3 years, from here to there it's 4 years now. For the remaining 3 years, Thabo paid how much? Thabo paid 5,000. And if you could just check this question, we are going back in time, and remember, if you go back in time, your number of years, it will be negative there. If you go back in time, your value of n, it is going to be negative. So we are going to do our calculation going back in time. So for these 3 years, remember the interest rate is going to be 0.01, and the number and the value of n is going to be minus 36. And the value that you get after calculation here, you are going to add it to this 13,000, and then you also do another calculation to get the original money that Thabo borrowed. But for these 4 years, the interest rate is how much? The interest rate is 0.045, and the value of n is minus 8. So let us do our calculation. A is equals to 5,000. Remember, we start there going back in time. 1 plus what is our value of I? 0,01. This value of I has been divided by 100 and has been divided by the number of months because it is compounded monthly. Negative 36 there. Let us punch it in our calculator. 1 plus 0,01 close bracket to an exponent of negative 36. It gives us 3,494,6247. Now remember, you only round off your final answer. So this is the money that we get after this calculation. Remember what we said, the money that you get after this calculation, you add it to this one before you can do another calculation. So the new value of P is going to be how much? The new value of P is going to be 13,000 plus 3,494,62748, which will be how much now? Plus 13,000, which will be 16,494,624,748. Now we are going to do our calculation, which will be the last one now. A is equals to how much? A is equals to 16,494,624,748 into what now? Into 1 plus, but remember the interest rate will change. For this one the interest rate was 12%, and for this one the interest rate it was 9%, compounded semi-annually, this one compounded monthly. So for this one that is compounded semi-annually, our interest rate is 0,045. The number of years is going to be minus 80. That is negative because we are going back in time, which will be press AC answer into 1 plus 0,045 close bracket raised to the exponent of negative 8. And see how much do we get there? We get 11,598,77. This is our final answer. Hence I'm going to round it off to 2 decimal places. Now we are not going to add anything here because remember the two questions are different. The other one said Sam, before he could pay the money of the car, she had already paid what? A deposit. But for this one there was no deposit that was paid. Thabo only paid 13,000 after 4 years and paid 5,000 for the remaining 3 years. So this is the amount that Thabo originally borrowed.